Hey everyone, welcome in to the Rochford Files with your host. That's kind of between the coast, coming to you live from the Mile Highland City. It's Andrew Rochford, and it's been a long week layoff here. I'll be honest and say that 3-day Memorial Day weekend was a pretty bad weekend for me. So that kind of set me off in the wrong track when it came to either doing a show on like over the weekend or Tuesday, Thursday ish. But then it's like Thursday is a pretty damn busy night for a lot of the other indie media people, and there's not a lot going on Friday. So somehow I've ended up doing my third straight Friday night stream in a row. So there's going to be some stuff that I could have covered much earlier in the week had I done a show. And most of it, I would say that's the case. Got a couple of things that are more recent in the rundown for today. And waiting for some more people to hopefully trickle in the chat here. As always, please drop a like, share it somewhere where you know that other people may have a chance to join the stream along with you as well, as this has been one of the big goals here is to grow the show. And hopefully by next week I should be bringing on some better guests for this, as I've hit a bit of a lull with that. But I think now's getting close to a good time to start things off. And we'll be going with Nick Adams. Nick Adams, by the way, he's one of those big right-wing accounts on Twitter. And you probably thought that everyone can't stop enjoying sports, but for some reason he's one of those rare accounts who on the right who constantly tweets about sports. For someone who poses more as a political figure and not just your typical reactionary right sports fan. So let's go back to Sunday. So I saw this Sunday night was actually one of the least bad parts of the weekend. Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Heat and Celtics was on the TV right in front of me. Then on this here laptop, AEW Double or Nothing. So that was actually the one of the higher moments of the weekend. But this came up before then. And this stems back to Gabe Kapler and his comment about not being on the field anymore until things change in this country. And if you were there for that show, you would know how I gave a good critique from the left to that performative action without any like push for mobilization and direct action to go along with it. So let's get into this tweet from Nick Adams. Anyone who disrespects the national anthem should be required to spend 14 days in Cuba. And if you noticed, there's a lot of people, if you get a vacation in Cuba, that's such an easy decision, man. But Nick Adams, you got to pay up for the millions and millions of comrades who would not acknowledge the national anthem in your preferred way in order to get that based ass 14-day vacation in Cuba. And if you notice, this would be actually inadvertently, accidentally left move if Nick was actually a man of his word and paid for all the millions of comrades who would enjoy and revel in the opportunity to partake in this 2-week vacation that Nick says is punishment for us. I mean, in spite of all the embargo and the blockade, the way that Cuba has been able to sustain itself and survive without the help of the United States is frankly really impressive. And how Cuba has what is considered the best healthcare in the world. And they've done stuff like have an actual cure for lung cancer, which something you don't see lung cancer vaccine here. And they arguably have the best COVID vaccine. However, if any of us wanted the Cuban vaccine instead of the ones that you could get here, your vaccine would not be acknowledged. As even Caleb Maupin referenced to a friend that he had from Russia coming to New York, and his Sputnik vaccine wasn't considered a valid vaccination there. And even though that's bringing up some old stuff, my focus on that has always been up at the people in power when it comes to the criticism over handling COVID and not punching down on people who are not trustworthy of that so-called government. But back to the point at hand here. Think about all the millions of people you'd be sending to Cuba. I'm sure that Cuba probably cannot handle all the people who would be willing to take that 14-day vacation at once. But if Nick Adams paid up and was a man of his word, he'd really be helping boost that Cuban economy a whole fucking lot. But there's more to it. He even put out a video. So we gotta play that next.
G'day guys, Nick Adams here. As many of you know, we are trending on Twitter, so I wanted to make this short video so that there could be no question as to where I stand. Every single professional athlete and coach in every sport in the United States of America must stand up for our national anthem. If they do not stand up for our national anthem, they should be sent away to a socialist country where they spend time until they realize they need to appreciate what they have in the greatest country in the history of the world. It is an absolute abject disgrace for woke coaches like Gabe Kapler to not stand for the anthem. This woke, divisive stuff has no place in the United States of America. We don't need any more of this Kaepernick BS. We need patriotism returned to our sports. Otherwise, it is the right and duty of every single American to boycott professional sports if they do not see a change in this. But am I for these coaches and these athletes having to go to Cuba, having to go somewhere else where people risk their life to come to the United States of America because they don't like those places, they can't stand those places, they need to leave those places? Am I in favor for these spoilt people that were born and raised here to go to those kind of places, have to be there for a period of time so that they get to know what America actually offers? Absolutely I am, without a shadow of a doubt. Goodbye, good luck, and God bless the United States of America.
First off, I don't get why this Nick Adams guy is so upset about people who don't stand for the national anthem. Hey, WCSN. Hi, Kelly. And that's the thing that makes this shit more ridiculous, is the fact that Nick Adams is a author that comes here from Australia. But back to my point that I wanted to start off with. Why is this guy so mad at people who don't stand for the national anthem? This guy he looks like he's 5'4". Why would you be upset at more people allowing you to stand above you when you only look like you're 5'4"? And the fact that it's actually it's been a week, Kelly. It's just that you didn't really notice much when I have my headphones on over my head, but that's the whole haircut. But yeah, it started to get too hot with all the extra hair on the side of my head, so had to get rid of that. And just so you know, unlike some of these shitty garbage imperialist bread tube streamers like the child pedophile in Beverly Hills who only keeps up with this like every few months, I'm going to stay on top of this. Be good representation for this hairstyle right here. But it's funny how Nick thinks it's such a punishment to want to go to a socialist country when I think many of us would like to be in an actual socialist country. I don't know if this guy was ever on board with Free Assange. I just know that this Nick Adams guy is a right-wing political figure that tweets about sports a lot, even though a lot of them are supposed to have sports completely canceled from their lives. But I could do a quick search on that while I'm at it here. Let's see what comes up. Oh, let me get that up for you. Hey, this guy actually isn't completely beyond the pale. He's actually, see, not completely beyond the pale. Even though most of his sports takes are the dog whistle variety, this is actually one positive thing about Nick Adams is the fact that he has actually done a couple pro Julian Assange tweets. Even though we know that a guy like him is not principled at all when it comes to free speech. Oh, yeah, you're so right about that. But it's also funny how much blinded that guys like that are with their nationalism. Still see my eyes got cut up in the light in my room, and I'm still seeing. Oh yeah, I noticed that too. Damn, I made the mistake of looking up at the light in my room and still seeing the flashing from that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to turn, even though it's not gonna look as nice for the stream. Gotta turn the light off. I'll turn the light on soon, but I gotta get that under control. He probably hasn't said anything since Biden has been in office, based on what I've seen. Oh yeah, let's get to the next story, and that's going to be related to talking about this new announcement from Breaking Points that happened, which coincided with their anniversary. So this is what happened with Breaking Points. Is the announcement that they're trying to team up with more media outlets, such as The Lever. We already knew Kyle Kulinski and Marshall Kozlov. The Real News Network, The Realignment, The Intercept, this 5149. But this status quo was one that was announced more beforehand. And that brings us back to what's been going on here, and that's the fact that this progressive, so-called progressive and anti-establishment media isn't really all that left. I mean, look at most of these people and how we're about to go into a great article from Indie Left as he goes into detail about this, talking about many of the inherent problems with this supposed non-corporate media, as it is becoming just like another caricature of corporate media. Okay. So let's take a deep dive into this article. So 3 people of INN all contributed on it, including Indie Left himself, The Descendant, and Big Mad Crab. After years of nonstop lies, many here moved away from the mainstream media and began going to alternative media sources. As a result, we've seen a lane of media emerge that positions themselves as anti-establishment and populist, but in the end are serving the same corporate interest of the mainstream media. So this was the... Let's play this video real quick.
That's Ryan Gribbs. Somebody's criticizing AOC in the squad. I have to come shit on a random podcaster. I'm the DC bureau chief of the fucking billionaire-funded Intercept, and I still have to peruse in Twitter defending politicians against podcasters' accurate descriptions.
Exactly, Kevin.
The Chinese are less likely now to invade because of the setbacks the Russians have experienced this. So that's why I think the war matters there. But the Defense Department, the White House, they are doing a great job.
That's what we already know, that Republicans are terrible.
What I tell people is if you have a conscience, you will vote third party for the rest of your life. Because how dare you vote for these people?
In 2020, I voted for Biden.
Joe Biden, a racist, warmongering puppet and tool of Wall Street and an enemy of the workers, and somehow you're going to pat yourself on the back. You're a good
I think Donald Trump is a danger. I think it's terrible. I also know that I'm a white person. But Hillary Clinton is not slam dunk 100% better than I, as an individual, can be good conscience.
There seems to be a laser focus on one part. Blind bears, earmuffs.
Here you're saying, David, is you're giving it an out for them to not do this. And that's just
No, I'm not giving them an out.
Yeah,
I'm
you
saying
are.
I don't know the answer to when push really came to shove. If you said, I want these things that you really don't want to do, and that those lawmakers should then vote in the way that we're talking about to elect Kevin McCarthy Speaker. Just as a human being,
As a human being, you're misframing this. You keep, as a human being, you keep misframing the issue.
She can't get 218 Democrats, then there's no speaker.
Right.
And then it kicks back to the caucus, and then it's chaos, and then a whole bunch of people can run, and then somebody will emerge. Somebody would emerge from that process.
As he points out, you don't get Kevin McCarthy as speaker.
But as long as we're not arming the Azov Battalion, I have no problem arming Ukraine in general so that they can protect themselves from Russian aggression.
Ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history.
They are very comfortable and okay with multipolarity. I mean, they've laughed at me.
What is that? So what is multipolarity?
Right, so they've laughed at me when I'm like, God, we'll be doomed to Europe. And they're like, oh, well, in Europe they have healthcare. I'm like, yeah, but they also have no say over the global affairs of the world. I want to write the affairs of the world, the rules of the road. I want to be the only blue water navy.
So that just shows you a lot of the major problems that we have with this so-called progressive media and anti-establishment, because there are some people from the right involved in this too, and there's very valid arguments to be made here that this has actually been a more beneficial to the right, so to speak. And especially since so often the Breaking Point audience is dominated by those people who much prefer Sagar and Jetty as opposed to Crystal Ball, and I think that's a big reason why they hate whenever Kyle's videos get posted on the Breaking Points channel, by the way, Kyle Kowinski, his value just exists in the fact that the most interesting thing about his channel is the Kyle and Corin episodes. And when your most interesting content is that of your chats with your best friend, then you're not really bringing much of value as someone who considers himself an independent media political commentator yet. Oh yeah, that's right. At least Caitlin Lee and Andrew haven't sold out yet. But let's get further down this article. As she wrote, Caitlin Johnstone put in a recent article titled "Kayfabe Populism Notes from the Edge of the Narrative Matrix." It's so important that the public have no real say in U.S. politics that the empire not only set up two oligarch puppet parties which pretend to oppose each other, but also set up fake populist movements within each of those factions which pretend to be fighting the establishment within those parties. Two legacy examples in this media include the Young Turks, a network that postures itself as opposed to the establishment but often defends democratic establishment, which is neocon propaganda on the issues such as Syria and Russiagate. Tucker Carlson, founder of the Daily Caller and a Fox News host who postures as a populist, the issue is that he consistently pushes pro-war talking points on China and has many close connections to the neocon establishment, such as his involvement with the dirty war in Nicaragua, or the fact that he previously tried to join the CIA. Both these outlets are supported by the Republican and Democratic establishment. Young Turks took $20 million from Hillary Clinton donor Jeffrey Katzenberg, and Tucker Carlson is allowed on the Rupert Murdoch-funded Fox News. So that right there is a big reason why. The problem with the way this progressive and just anti-establishment media from both sides is set up is because of the fact that both of them are really just designed to keep people within this whole two-party duopoly in one way or another. This latest type of corporate-backed independent media is Breaking Points, a self-described anti-establishment outlet centered around Crystal Ball and Sagar and Jetty, who left the Hills Rising last year in a public breakup after helping build the popularity of the YouTube channel, then started their own channel and show. And this is what they announced for their plans for the future when they just reached their year anniversary a few days ago.
All right, let's get to it. We have a fun thing to talk about today. It's May 30th. We're heading in, obviously, I know it's a holiday weekend. For some of you, we thought it was important to continue doing the show because we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, which is really just kind of incredible. If you're a premium subscriber, we filmed a special kind of 1-year recap for all of you. But for those of us who watch and stick with the show, I think we owe it to you as well. It's just amazing. And obviously, we would never be here without you, Crystal. And it's just fun to think back. I remember, I think we were doing a practice show Memorial Day weekend.
That's
exactly
right.
This time 1 year ago.
That's right.
And it was like secret. We couldn't we did multiple rehearsals, and that's where we filmed some of our promotional content, which we eventually posted, and you guys immediately were like, hey, the audio here is terrible. And because, our premium subscribers showed up for us, we were able to pay and have in an audio. Shout out to Steve, who helps us out every day. It's just a fun time, and I think, to reflect on the growth of the show as we come up here. I just checked this morning, which is insane to me. Not one time in the last 365 days or 364 days have we dropped below the iTunes or Spotify top 10 in politics news.
I didn't realize
there has
that.
not been one day that we've dropped below that, which is insane to me. I mean, we came from the Hill. I thought we'd be okay. We don't know. Ultimately, it was a bet. And it hasn't ever dropped below the top 10. If anything, the show has grown every single month that it has been on the air. It's, we have 800,000 some YouTube subscribers. It's just been overwhelming almost in terms of how big the show got so quickly that it was reconstituted. And just shows us like why we want to keep doing this, what we want to keep doing as we continue to grow the show.
Yeah, there's a couple things I want to say as we think about the first year. First of all, I want to thank you for being such a great partner.
Thank you.
There is no one that I would rather be on this journey with, because as much as we, we have disagreements right now, we're guns and all of these things, but we both have a bedrock belief that if we can't even engage with someone who we really believe, know to be a good faith actor on areas that are difficult and challenging, like what hope is there for the country? So we really believe in that, even though sometimes it'd be more comfortable to just have someone next to me who's going to be like, amen, and just be preaching to the choir. And we know you guys, that's something else that we're really proud of, is that the audience has really different views across the entire spectrum, and shows up because they want to hear things that they agree with, but they also
Okay, I think that's a good point to stop it, because as Kelly just highlighted here is, how could we ever believe that a former MSNBC host would rage against the machine? As we've seen with Crystal, there's been plenty of moments where she has hedged on certain issues. First being defund the police, she hedged on that. She came out against the slogan. And Sagar used to work on Tucker Carlson as well. So both of these people are connected to the corporate media atmosphere. They were just more so Crystal just weren't accepted as being people who slightly dissent from that. But I think we've gotten through the main gist of this, so to speak. But I think I don't want to read the whole article. Oh, it's crazy, Kelly, how just the stuff that when you're just beginning to watch this stuff, because I was just at that time I was still very new to this media space, and some of the stuff that felt fine hearing from like a Crystal or Kyle at first is stuff that I wouldn't accept here and now. And that and statements like that wouldn't be ones that would go over my head these days, like they did when I was just discovering the indie left. But next, it's important to go in on someone who is on a different side of Denver than me, David Sirota, once again, because this guy is deeply counterproductive. Even though there's probably more examples than this since Tuesday, I think it's important to start off with these. Hear me out. Every voter who voted to remove Donald Trump from the White House is not complicit in the pathetic failings of Joe Biden. If you argue that you are, you probably need to log off and reevaluate your cognitive capacity and life priorities. Thanks. And this is absolutely one of those dumb as fuck, unproductive arguments that some of these progressives get into, just like the pointless semantics of still trying to argue that Joe Biden is better than Donald Trump. And if someone's still caught up in that BS, that was really last year. And when you try to bring up irrelevant issues or make up BS like in the way that Sirota is doing right here, he's pretty much talking out of both sides of his ass like usual when it comes to which he has done way back to force the vote last year. In our limited democracy, a vote is a strategic decision inside of a moral system, not a religious expression of self-identity. Voting for a less bad candidate than criticizing, pressuring them is not hypocrisy. That's how it should work. These are not idols. They are amoral. Wrong. You're absolutely, completely undermining the purpose of criticizing and pressuring politicians in a system which isn't anything of a democracy that we are currently in. And the point I want to make here is he's pushing the lesser of two evilisms. And we know that David probably feels like he has to do this in order to protect his wife's career. But trust me, man, you could be just like many of us, full out Dem exit, and your wife's probably still going to keep her seat just because of how little we've been able to reach people in terms of really being able to impact things like that. I think what more people have really done is they've just ended up giving up on the system entirely and not doing any type of participation in it. And I even understand the people who decide to be very anti-voting and very huge on direct action, because at least those people are treating all the politicians the same with direct action. That it's like a standard pressuring, as opposed to some people who are still pushing the idea of selectively voting blue. And yes, even if you're only telling people to vote for progressives, you're still practicing a form of voting blue no matter who. So he is completely undermining the leftist purity testing here. And that is to, as Nick Cruz of Revolutionary Blackout Network says, his purity test is being anti-capitalist and anti-imperialist. And when you look at David Sirota, how often do you actually hear him say anything about foreign policy? Waiting for those examples. Does he even do much in criticizing bad foreign policy votes when they take place in the House and Senate? because I feel like there's a lot of crickets there. And what we do know is many people had asked for Sir Rhoda to speak on, to advocate for Julian Assange, and his response was to block those people. And if anything, I'm surprised that he didn't go on a major ass blocking spree this week with the way that he's been getting attacked probably the most by the left in a week that I've ever seen. I mean, it still continued today as it even tried to push back on Ryan Knight. So first off, he misses the anti-imperialist part in a huge way. And then anti-capitalist. Has he really been pushing in an anti-capitalist direction? No. All he's really been doing is trying to push to reform the Democratic Party. And what we've seen with the whole reforming through Justice Democrats and maybe some of the other progressives who didn't try to work their way through the system under that very umbrella is that they're probably the greatest practitioners of incrementalism compared to any of the Democrats that we have. So he completely undermines both purity tests, because if you're saying that people who vote for the lesser of two evils are good enough to be in your progressive movement, then you're just going to be spinning your wheels, not getting anywhere, because for as much as this guy gets angered by your random shitheads who hate progressives, this guy enjoys the abusive relationship in that. And I think a lot of us on the left have evolved from feeling like you have to automatically go after these people every single time. I mean, I'm with Nina Turner losing twice. I don't think many of us really really cared to go after some of these K-Hive types when they celebrated the loss, just because I think many of us knew the loss was going to happen, and that it was going to happen in a worse way. Then you got to go talk about Ryan Graham and another essential vote blue no matter who guy. So these people are just ultimately this breaking points conglomerate is just trying to keep you spinning your wheels in the middle of nowheres. And they don't want you to break free of that hamster wheel and follow the revolutionary mindsets pushed by Revolutionary Blackout Network, Black Power Media, MCSC Network, among others. They don't want that. They want you to keep invested in the electoral politics because they don't have anything to offer you beyond that. Because they could at least amplify good activism when it's done. But what we've seen is these guys just like to hedge and ultimately undermine the good activism that is going on, as we've seen them hedge and undermine it over the last couple years, whether it's the George Floyd protest, if they even mention Medicare, the March for Medicare for All, They stood silent on the General Strikes Summit, stood silent on the anti-imperialist and third-party summits as well. Because when you look at maybe the only person in that conglomerate that even acknowledges those other things is Jordan Sheridan. But even then, his political commentary is so in line with those other people that it kind of renders it a bit meaningless, even though he tries to do less electoral politics focused reporting. So I think now that I got through that segment, I'm going to cut this stream short for tonight. I wanted to get a couple more segments in, but I'm honestly not feeling my best, and it's kind of hard to focus on the computer screen tonight. I even had to turn the lights off and brightness. So hopefully next time I get on, which will be hopefully sometime over the weekend, I'll feel it'll be a better day for me. So please try like, share, subscribe to the stream. To the channel. Also on alternate platforms such as Twitch, Rumble, and Odyssey, which I've been neglecting the Rumble and Odyssey as of late, but hopefully I'll work to get back on it, and hopefully I'll put in a better stream for you the next time that I happen to be on here, as it's going to be a good point to end for tonight. This was sooner than I would have liked, but with that being said, I hope everyone enjoys the start of this weekend. Oh, thanks WCSN. Just an off night here, and hopefully I'll be more normal and put in a better performance the next time I take the field and step onto the court. But with that being said, this is Andrew Rochford saying goodbye and good night.